Welcome to Cross the Tracks, the podcast whose mission is to highlight the artists behind the best new releases from both the hottest new talent as well as some of the biggest black music artists. Today's episode finds us catching up with a gentleman who can really only be called a musical living legend. After joining the groundbreaking funk, soul and R&B band Slave in the late 1970s, he delivered on funk classics such as Watching You and Just a Touch of Love. He then took the brave step to go solo and met with even bigger success with international solo hits which included Weak at the Knees, Way Out and Nobody Can Be You, and of course the top 10 single Feel So Real. His songs have been sampled by Jay-Z, Jermaine Dupri, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Snoop, LL Cool J, Mariah Carey, and the list goes on and on. Today, he's joined us by the wonders of modern technology, Zoom, to chat about what he's been up to over the last few years and to talk about his latest album, his first solo album in over a decade, the 13-track project, Down to the Lowest Terms, The Soul Sessions. I'm talking about the man, Steve Arrington. It's been a minute since you last brought something out, solo anyway. I think the last thing was when you worked with, was it Damn Funk back in 2013?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's been a short while.
It certainly has. I've been working on the music and just wanting to change directions and continue to challenge myself. I felt this was the good time to do it. I felt musically in a good place, and I felt that I could offer something fresh and new to the things I had done before. So
in the period of time where we haven't heard anything from you, 2013 till now, and then there was a gap earlier then, wasn't there, for about another 8 or 9 years previous to that as well. What have you been up to? What have you been doing? Is it easy not to be producing, bringing out records, bringing out music, or is it something you thought, listen, I deserve a rest, I'm just going to chill back for a while?
It's kind of funny for me. I'm always working on music all the time. And that's sort of what it is. I continue to challenge myself to grow and keep going further. You can hear threads of my history and what I do, but if you listen, for instance, between Just a Touch of Love and Watching You and those songs, and then hear the change between Weak in the Knees, Nobody Can Be You, but You, Way Out. Those songs don't sound like the Slave material. You can hear that that's where I come from, but you can also hear I'm taking different chances and making different moves. And then you also look at the transformation and the change musically between the first Hall of Fame, Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame album, and let's say Feel So Real, Dancing in the Key of Life. She Just Don't Know. Those tracks are more dance-oriented, still funky, but more up-tempo. And so I continue to want to grow, take in new things, and then work on them. And when I feel like I've got to a place where I can make the statement and it doesn't sound like I'm reaching, but I'm actually just solid in where I am now and what I'm trying to do. I say, okay, let's make some music. But then, believe me, there's been a lot of tracks, that I've done and worked on prior to what you're hearing for today.
I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you. I've been looking at you, baby. I've been waiting for you. I've been counting on it to get next to you, baby. It's alright, hey baby, I've got you. Don't you know it's alright? I know just what to do, girl. You know it's alright, hey baby, I've got you.
So, what dragged you back into the studio for down to the lowest terms, the soul sessions? What made you decide, listen, I want to compile this and let's get in the studio and put this thing together?
Well, the last record I did with Peanut Butter Wolf, Stone's Throw, like I mentioned, was with Dame Funk, and it was a collab album between the two of us, and it was called Higher.
Yeah, a great album.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had a lot of fun making that record. It's the first time that I had made a record where someone sent me tracks. I did the vocals in the lab and then sent them back. And that was the first time I had ever done that.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it because, again, it's something fresh for me, something new, different. and challenging in a sense that I'd been used to a band, or even if we were doing more MIDI oriented type music, everyone would be there in the studio. And this is the first time in which I was like sent tracks, did the vocals, did the arrangements vocally, and then sent them back. So that was a lot of fun. This album, Down to the Lowest Terms, I decided to go to Chicago. Now, what I mean by that is for years, I'd been excited about Chicago blues. And in Dayton, many of the friends that I would jam with, playing shuffles and going to jam sessions, were talking how much they wanted to go to Chicago. And I decided not only am I going to go to Chicago, I'm going to have my band from Chicago, and I'm just going to absorb that South Side Chicago where Muddy and Coco Taylor and people like that were from, right? Okay. Howlin' Wolf. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to add that to what I do. You know, I wanted to get that more gritty Southern, they call Chicago, Mississippi North. So I really was into absorbing the blues. And so as I began to make this record, I had been going to Chicago for 9 years with my band being there, rehearsal, and just absorbing the South Side. So when I felt it was time to make some music again, I had absorbed what I needed to get out of the whole Chicago experience. Peter Butter Wolf hit me up and said, "Hey man, you want to do something?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm feeling real good right now about direction." And then they said, "Well, you mean as far as continuing sort of in what you did on the last album with Dame in that direction?" I said, "No, I'm feeling this grimy kind of soulful bluesy thing that I want to add to what I'm doing." And they were like, "Oh, okay. So let's look at some producers. Let's see where this is coming from. Let's hear how you're writing." And everyone at Stone's Throw was excited about what I was doing and what I was hearing now. And the actual album title, Down to the Lowest Terms, is a phrase that I really enjoyed from algebra, from mathematics. Okay. And so I used it more from a place of down to the lowest terms. In other words, you know, when it's all said and done, when the when it comes down to the bottom line. So I use right down to it. Terms. Exactly. Uh-huh. Which means when you get right down to it, everything really stems from the blues. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of where I'm coming from with that from the blues gospel. So the soul sessions were part of it was, hey man, everything that I'm doing, I'm giving my all to it. The tracks are very different. There's not just one style. There's different styles on the record, but the way I put it together vocally, it has a cohesiveness to it. It sounds like Down to the Lowest Terms, the soul sessions.
And that makes so much sense to me because I was listening to it and really the whole vibe of the album, it just flows and just hits you like a natural evolution of your sound, like from Slave through to your calibration with Dan Funk and your work with Thundercat, the bassist as well.
Absolutely.
And now even through to the latest project, it's got your trademark stamp of kind of funky musical fluidity running through it. You can just feel it, but at the same time, it's coming from different directions all the time. Is that what you wanted? Is that what you was aiming at?
Yes. I wanted to bring something new to what I was doing. And like I said, I went to Chicago for a reason. Mm-hmm. And it was to absorb that grimy South Side of Chicago. I love, for instance, Hound Dog Taylor, for instance.
Okay.
I dig Hound Dog Taylor's music. At the same time, you know, I'm like listening to Bitches Brew Miles. I'm still absorbing the jazz and still getting into my funk records and new music, Thundercat, Flying Lotus, people like that. And rest in peace, Raz G, the great Raz G. That being said, all these vibes that I had been feeling and enjoying, they found their way into what I was doing without trying to. I just absorbed it, right? And then I gave my take on where things are today for me. And that griminess found its way into the way I was writing. And I just went with it. And it made the record have a new flavor. And so you still hear what I do, and you still hear my intervals and my tone and whatever. But there's a added griminess, a little dirtiness to it that I've added that I enjoy, and that Stone's Throw really enjoyed what I was doing, and the sessions were magical. This was a great album for me to make, a lot of fun and a lot of great moments to make this record.
It's time to make some moves, yeah. It's got me in a good mood. It's got me in a good mood, yeah. Out the door to my right, look around and I enjoy it. Yeah. I see it every day, but today I appreciate it.
You mentioned Miles before. I mentioned Bitches Brew, and then you'd never believe that was from the same guy who did Kinda Blue.
That's right.
But then when you check it out, you recognize the sound of that trumpet, whatever track it's on, whatever genre of music it's in, you recognize his sound. And I congratulate you for keeping your own sound, even though you continue to experiment and play and bring in other kind of influences. It's to me, it's a sign of someone who really has a mission, understands what mission they're on, but at the same time wants to keep evolving.
Thank you so much. I'm at my best when I'm able to just flow. Whatever that flow is, I don't try to direct it. I don't try to bottle it up and package it. I just flow, and I'm able to emotionally get inside every line because I'm not somehow canceling it out because it might not reflect an album in the past, or it may reflect an album in the past. What comes out, comes out. But what I'm able to do is absorb and then allow myself to let it come out. And this is my take on the current times that we're in. And that's what I do. And this is why this album was so much fun for me, because I know what I put in to just add more to what I do. And it came out in such a way that I feel there's nothing forced that sounds, this record doesn't sound forced to me, but it also sounds, at the same time, it sounds diverse.
We're talking about this record and really focused on it, and I want to. So I'm pleased about this because it is a departure. And once again, it's a departure from the old stuff, but also it's you getting back into the studio and with your signature sound. And I've got a question. How did you want people to feel after listening to the album? How do you want me as a listener to feel after listening to your album? Or do you want me to feel something different after each track?
Just the soulfulness of it, that it sounds honest. Yo, man, dude, I believe he believes what he's saying. You feel me? It's just that it's honest. And I would hope that the people would feel many different feelings about it. But at the end of that journey, it's like, that was a good journey to go on because it was honest. It's soulful. Steve is being adventurous again.
I mean, I love the track Keep Dreaming. That's the first one that hit me, and I thought, hang on a minute. Hang on, the man has a message here. Yeah. Not just in the main lines of the song, but in the ad-libs too.
Yes, and that's
what was on your mind? If you don't mind me interrupting you, what was on your mind when you wrote that song? What was you thinking of? Was you thinking of what we're going through currently, 2021, or is it a very old song and it just happens to fit straight in to where we're at right now?
Yeah, it speaks to the time that we're in, but it also speaks directly to me. You know, okay. I'm 64 years old, and I'm still excited about music the way I was when I was 16 years old. And I continue to dream because I continue to want to do fresh and new things and want to continue to evolve. So I'm speaking to myself, but I'm also speaking to other people to say it's never over. You're never too young, you're never too old, whatever nationality, wherever you come from, keep dreaming, because dreams do come true when you put the work in to have it be so, and don't quit on yourself. Others may say, you're too this, you're too old, you're whatever. But when you're focused and you say, hey man, I feel this thing and this is what I want to happen in my life, and go for it. And so that's what it's saying. Big picture wise, it's also speaking to the social climate that we're in, but I'm also speaking to myself after making a record after 13, 11 years, something like that. And I continue to dream, else I wouldn't have gone to Chicago to add something specifically to do that, to add more to what I do. So I liken it to people that maybe go and study, they go to another country and they go study ants, or they go study wildlife, and they bring this information back. For me, going to Chicago was to study a lot of the blues greats and where they come from, and that energy. And I think it shows up.
Baby, keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. It's what I'm gonna do, yeah. Keep dreaming. That's what I'm on, yeah. Keep dreaming, yeah. My mama said keep on going, man. Keep dreaming.
And that's part of my continuing to dream, because I know I put the work in for me to be able to bring about this sound that I'm hearing in my head. And now it's out into the world.
I remember listening to the song Soulful. Mm-hmm. I Need That in My Life. And that just, as you were speaking about that grimy soul feeling, which you were talking about, that track sort of came into the back of my mind. And I was thinking, I wonder what was in his mind when he wrote that. Even as I was listening to it, I was thinking to myself, what was running through your mind? What happened at that point when you thought, you know what, Soulful, I need this in my life? Did the lyrics come first? Did the groove come first? Can you remember when you actually wrote that song, which came first in that one?
The lyric came first.
Uh-huh. Was that out of a conversation, or?
Well, no, it's looking at, in America, we're going through an amazing, crazy time right now, socially. What's going on politically, and racism's going on, and it's just crazy here right now. We just have a president-elect that, but then he's not getting all the information he needs to go forward. Things like that are going on. So as I've looked at these past few years, I started to say to myself, hey man, what's going to bring me peace and what's going to calm me down? My relationship with God and some good soulful music, because, I need that in my life to keep me balanced and keep me relaxed, and to keep me from being too excited over the day-to-day things. Once I realize, this thing's going to be okay. Things are going to work out. Just relax. And when you need that peace, go on and get that soulful in your life. And that's what that song's about. And it speaks directly to me.
I got to get me that soulful, yeah. I need that in my life. Yes, I do. Give me that soulful, yeah. I need that in my life. I need that in my life.
And even as I was checking out another track, which I kind of fell in love with, was a track called Love Knows. And I was listening to it and I thought, I was trying to work out your motivation for writing the songs as well. But listening to you speaking about the last track and also Keep Dreaming, I think these are coming from a very personal place where you're looking out and observing and saying, "Hey, I think I can put this into lyrics."
Well, you know, you're coming in contact with a lot of people, okay, in this music thing as an artist, and you meet a lot of people, and I always look at it from this place. Love knows, meaning you can discern a lot of things relationally by how your love meter responds. And whether it's a one-on-one relationship with a woman, whether it's family relationships, friends, or people you meet in the industry, there's a meter that we have to compartmentalize our relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And so people that, you know, get into a closer place with you, love knows. Love just says, okay, that relationship can get closer. Other relationships, they stay further away, and they're supposed to. It's not they're bad nor good. It's just they're not close to you. They're not people you might share your inner thoughts and your inner feelings with. And I call that place Love Knows. Love knows where those boundaries are.
Oh, I'm so pleased I asked you about that, because I wondered where you were coming from with that. That makes so much sense now. Tell me, there's an intensity and purpose, and even a feeling of urgency that runs through the entire project. Was that intentional? I mean, I was listening to a track called "It's All Right" as well, and I sense that there's a feeling of kind of urgency where you really want to get over a message to people. Was that intentional, or is that something that I just picked up in a personal way?
Well, you know, I hadn't put an album out in a long time, right?
Okay, you had a lot to say.
You know, yeah. So, you know, and the thing about this record is I really enjoyed the process from the second we started till the second we ended. Also, a good friend of mine passed away while making this record. His name is Alan Bridges, and we used to be coming up. We both played drums together, right? Okay. He was 19, I was 17, and I remember telling him, this is a funny story. I remember telling him, Alan, you just turned 19. You're old, dude. You old. And he's like, I know, man. Which is how funny it is when you're dealing at different ages, how age looks to you, right? Well, he and I were dreaming together about one day we're going to do this and one day we're going to do that. Well, you know, I went on and continued on with music. He chose a different direction. And then we sort of weren't around each other for years because he had moved to DC, and I was continuing to be on the road and so forth. Got a call that he was in the hospital. He was quite ill, and I talked to the family members that I knew, and here I am in the middle of making a record for the first time in many years. And he passed away in the middle of making this record. Mm. And so it hit me about my youth, about my dreams, about one day I would be able to do this, and how we agreed that, yeah, this is what we're going to do. He chose a different path ultimately, but when he passed away, I was doing what he was happy to see, that I stuck with it and that I did it. So there's that in this record as well. Because my friend who we had spoke about this many days of practicing drums, playing in different bands, he had passed away and gone on. And I found out about it in the middle of making this record.
Mm. And do you think actually it affected the sound of the whole project?
Well, yeah, because I just was able to reach deeper chambers of myself, because it put me back in touch with my youth from a place when I was dreaming, when I was hoping, when I was excited about one day this will happen. And the thing about this album title, Down to the Lowest Terms, not only was it a phrase that really moved me when I was in the 8th grade, I knew when I got into my early 20s, I'm like, one day I'm going to make an album called Down to the Lowest Terms.
Really? You'd predicted that?
Yes, I've held on to this title for years. And I said, I'm never going to call an album that I make unless it sounds like it. So all these years, I've held on to that title. I thought it's actually a real cool sounding, exotic title, but I didn't care. I wouldn't use it just for the sake of it sounding cool. The music had to reflect it. So as this album started to unfurl, I'm like, wow, man, this is down to the lowest terms. This is it, because this sounds like it. So yeah, man, that's another thing about this record. I've held on to that title since I was in my early 20s, thinking that one day I'd make a record called Down to the Lowest Terms. The Soul Sessions part is I gave my all to this. And even my best friend, who knew how much I loved music, and I pursued it with all that I had passed away. And I know his feeling was like, you doing your thing. You're doing what we talked about when you was coming up. Do that thing, bro. So yeah, that all sort of came into a cohesive whole for me to present this record.
If I asked you to pick a track off of the album which you think really represents the way you want people to feel, or after listening to the album, which track would you go for? Because I've got my favourites, as you probably heard me. I can keep on reeling them off, but which one would you go for and say, you know what, this one I think sums up this album to me?
It depends on what mood I'm in, right? Okay,
let's say you're in a philosophical mood, you're chilling back and you just want to just think about your day.
I'm going to go with Make You Say Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe in the twist and shout. Yeah. That's one of the lines in it. Yeah, that song, yeah, it has the soulful background vocal thing from the doo-wop days in it, you know, and something very different for me, you know. Yeah, I'd say that.
I can see that big smile on your face, Steve. I can tell that song really does. Yeah, I can see it resonates with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'd say also my favorite swing. Favorite swing. Yeah.
So tell me, the favorite swing is an unusual track.
Yeah.
What inspired that track?
My love for Weather Report, my love for fusion, my love for Mahavishnu Orchestra, and of course, you know, the more exotic material from Earth, Wind and Fire. But more than anything, I'd say Weather Report. Joe Zawinul and the great Wayne Shorter going in. Yeah, no doubt.
That is so interesting. I mean, I was even thinking about the track Joys of Love. Is that the track where you've got the line, was it, I'm not here to confuse you, but I'm here to good news you?
Yes.
Is that coming from that track?
Yes.
There you go. See, you can tell I've studied this album.
Yes.
It's embarrassing.
Yes, that's one of my favorite joints on the album.
I'm not here to play with your mind. I'm not here to play tricks on you. Just want to show you a deeper place ascensions. It's not nice, it's not cute, but it's real and it's raw, absolute. And it's not slick, not fake. And I appreciate the Lord every step of the way. Yeah. All I wanna do is adore you, baby. I'm not here to confuse you, but I'm here to good news you. I'm here to good news you. I'm here to good news you. Ooh-wee. Yeah. I speak the joys of love, the joys into your life, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, that's got that sort of smoothed out, slower mid-tempo groove to it. And I can just remember when we was in the studio, I'm like, oh man, I'm feeling this. I hear some really nice stuff. Again, it took a direction that I hadn't done before, cadence-wise, just the way I approached the track. And so I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to know how to approach that track. Because again, you know, I had opened myself up to different things. It didn't have to sound like Wait For Me. It didn't have to sound like Dancing in the Key. It didn't even have to sound real melodic in some of the more beautiful melodic type lines that I would use. This was more down in the trenches, yet it still had almost like a hip hop sort of bounce vocally to it. So it goes in some interesting directions for me. Yeah.
Well, before you go, I'd like to congratulate you just for the humbleness you seem to have shown, willing to take on all these young cats and work with these young producers, Mindsign and Knowledge and who else? Jerry Paper. And I mean, literally just taking other people on and working with them and working alongside them and willing to sort of absorb the sounds which they're willing to put out right now. And hopefully they were doing the same with you as well, taking in the goodness what you could teach them. But that to me shows a humbleness, which I know a lot of artists I speak to haven't got. So I applaud you for that. I mean, was it great fun working with the young cats and then bringing in different sounds and different ways of looking at tracks to you?
Absolutely. This was magical, you know, of the different producers, and the relationships, the musicality and my respect for them and their respect for me, and the respect that we had for the music to do something fresh, but not saying that, but at the same time, not having an agenda with that, just allowing the good vibes to actually show up in the music that we were connecting on. And it was a lot of fun. And all of those guys were still really cool to this day. So there wasn't just, okay, we got these hot producers, blah, blah, blah. We do the session and it's just, you know, a session in LA that, you know, you can have where you just get hot cats together, boom, bam, boom. Wasn't like that. It was a connecting. And the same way I feel that happened with a Thundercat, same sort of thing when I did the thing with him, Black Qualls. Big fun, much love for Thundercat and Steve Lacy and the Mighty Flying Lotus, you know, much love for that whole crew.
I was so surprised when I saw you in that lineup. I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, hang on. You caught me on that one.
Yeah, that was big fun, man. My relationship with Thundercat is real cool, man.
What a bass player. What a bass player.
Goodness. Oh my gosh. That boy is scary.
Yes, that's a good word. Yeah. You look at what he's doing, you can hear what he's doing, but you still are not quite sure how he's doing it. You're thinking, okay. Okay.
I told him, listen, man, you play like liquid, dude.
Yeah.
Your sound it's like the lines flow so effortlessly.
Well, what's next for you? I know we're speaking about your current album. I know that you was meant to be in London this year, but I think COVID has put his heavy foot on that plan.
Yeah.
I guess that COVID has probably messed up a lot of your promotional work for this new album, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's changed some things. But you know what? I've been doing playlists, and I'd never done that before. And that's been a lot of fun for me, putting playlists like I did this one, the reemergence of a jazz fusion. I've done, you know, a playlist of my favorite top 10 funk joints. So I've been having fun doing the playlists, adding that to what I do. Also, I'm writing and producing. I've got some tracks I'm working on now from the production point of view. Okay. And so just continuing to open up and find new chambers of myself to be able to move in this and that direction, and in constant study. Right now, when people say, "What you listening to, man?" I'm listening to Blackpink right now. I really dig Blackpink. So I've been vibing on Blackpink from the K-pop point of view, and having fun with them. So, you know, I'm listening to a lot of different music, getting more gear into my studio, and looking forward to getting back out on the road when that's time. I've got some videos that'll be dropping soon as well.
Great. Really pleased to hear that.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm using my time wisely, you know, to continue to grow and develop, and look forward to be back on the road when, you know, it's that time. But until then, I'm just going to keep growing and doing different collabs and finding out new places to try and develop and add to my game, as they say in basketball.
Well, all I can say is thank you so much for just joining us for this podcast. I really appreciate it. As I said earlier, you're someone who's really influenced a lot of my listening to funk music from the time of my early teens. And so you made me so happy when I contacted your camp, and they said, yeah, you'd be glad to come on. So listen, thank you so much. You might ever start talking more about the old days and slave and stuff, but I really wanted to catch up and talk about today.
Yeah.
Because today is what matters as far as I'm concerned. Today's the most important time.
Hey.
I always tell people there's a reason that the rear view mirror in a car is much smaller than the front screen.
I like that.
You can use that one, Steve. You can use that.
I like that. That's good.
Okay. And once again, I look forward to speaking to you again and even seeing you live over in London next time you're here.
Yeah, I look forward to it as well.
Mr. Steve Arrington, the living legend, thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Cross the Tracks. Join me again soon for our next journey. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast platforms, whether that be on Apple Tunes, Spotify, Amazon or Google. And please remember to follow WBSS Media on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram to get info on the latest episodes as soon as they are released. Stay curious.